Hi there, Mr. Luke here. Welcome to the Bertrand School of Music Instrument Fundamentals series. The goal of this program is to give you a reference point when you're not in front of your teachers and you just need a little bit of a refresher on how to take care of the instrument. These instruments are not toys and require great care when you're handling them. In this series, we will be covering instrument assembly, making your first sound, and how to clean the instrument when you're all done. Please enjoy the series. And now, the instrument fundamentals for clarinet. We're going to go ahead and begin the process of putting the clarinet together. So before we do that, we want to make sure that we have the clarinet case on a nice flat surface, so when we open it up, no parts come flying out. Now most instrument cases are designed to have the handle closer to the ground. So there's two sides, the side that flips open and then the one that stays stationary on the ground. You want the side with the handle to be on the flat surface. So once you have that, you can just go ahead and undo the latches. Sometimes you might have a zipper, and then you can just go ahead and open up the case. Alright, so we have our case open. Now let's go ahead and take a look at some of the parts of the clarinet here. So we have our lower body joint right here. This part right here is called the bell. This piece inside here is called the barrel. This is the mouthpiece assembly. And then here we have the upper body joint. So now let's go ahead and put those together. We're going to take a look at the upper body joint. Now this is the part that has the two sets of corks on it. Now these corks can sometimes be a little dry. This clarinet here is pretty well moist right now, but if you have a care kit, which I strongly recommend if you have not gotten yet, this is our cork grease right here. Almost looks exactly like chapstick in the same type of container, but do not use this as chapstick. It will not be very good. Okay? So what you can do is just take a little, rub it on your finger, and then we're actually just going to apply this to the corks. So you can just rub it in just like this. It doesn't need to be too much. We just want to make sure that we're not forcing anything on in case the corks are too tight. Now taking a look at the upper body joint again, this key right here, we're going to hold that down. This moves our bridge key. And if you can look right here, this key is up and down as I press down the key. So this is very important that we have this part up. This is the bridge key right here. You want the bridge key to be up. Because then we're going to take our lower body joint, and this is the other side of the bridge key. This is the receiver of the bridge key. So go ahead and carefully press that bridge key down, and then we're just going to gently twist the instrument on, and then you're going to check the bridge key just to make sure that it's connected. So if you press some of the keys on the lower joint, the keys on the upper joint should be moving as well. That's how you know you have a good connection between the two. And just remember, the keys are made out of a softer metal, a nickel-silver material. So make sure you're not squeezing down on the instrument, because the keys can get out of alignment and you'll need to go into the repair shop for some repairs. So after that, we can go ahead and put on the bell. And this is only going to fit on one end. Notice if I try to put it on up here, it's just not going to fit. So remember, if your corks are too soft or too dry, go ahead and apply some of that cork grease. Mine are okay right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and gently twist that on. So it'll just be a nice tight seal. Okay. Now I'm just going to put this assembly aside for right now, because we're going to start working on our first sounds. And for that, just go ahead and take out your barrel and your mouthpiece, and we'll put those together to make the first sounds. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and make some of our first sounds on the clarinet. But before we do that, we just have a little bit more assembly to do. So for this assembly, you're going to need your reed and reed guard. You'll need the barrel, and you'll need your mouthpiece assembly. So before we can start anything, we're going to talk a little bit about the reed. So like I said, I have it in my reed guard here, and this is included in that care kit that I absolutely recommend just because it has everything that you need. So you'll notice that I have the tip protected in this reed guard. So if you take a look at the tip, it's very thin. It's actually thinner than a sheet of paper, so it's very easy to get chipped or cracked or damaged in any way like that. So if it does get damaged, then it's pretty much useless. You won't vibrate in the correct way. So whenever you're not using it, make sure you slide it into the reed guard just like that. Okay? Now, the reed actually needs to be moist for this to work. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to put the reed in your mouth for about 10 to 15 seconds. And you're just going to use the moisture from your tongue and your cheeks, just like this, for about 10 to 15 seconds. Mine's already pretty moist, so I'm just going to put it back into the reed guard for now until I need it for the rest of the assembly. Now go ahead and take it out your barrel and the mouthpiece kit. So you can take off the mouthpiece cap. You don't need that for right now. And then this metal part right here is the ligature. You can just take this off for right now as well. Now what we're going to do is we're going to attach the mouthpiece and the barrel. We're going to put them together, and just like the rest of the instrument after we got the joints assembled, this will only fit in one way. So it's not going to fit in here. It's going to be flipped around, and it's just going to be a nice tight squeeze. Now here we do have the cork showing, and just remember that if this is too dry, that you need to put some of the cork grease on. Mine's okay right now, so I'm just going to go ahead and just put the two together. Okay? So now that we have that all assembled, you can just go ahead and put on the ligature, and the same thing with the ligature, it's actually only going to fit on one way. So if you have it flipped upside down, it's not going to slide down all the way. And if you take a look at the screws here, the flat side should be pointing to the right. So you're just going to flip it over like that and slide it down. Okay. So now we can take out our reed from our reed guard. And what we're going to do is we're going to push up the ligature. And some people like to slide the reed underneath like this, but I always like to protect the tip of the reed as much as I can. So I'm actually going to slide the reed down underneath the ligature. Okay? And it's going to lay flat against the mouthpiece. And you're going to push it down just so it about lines up with the tip of the mouthpiece. So once you have that lined up, you can push down the ligature. And you should be able to see just a little bit of this U shape here in the reed. This is where they stop cutting the reed. And you just want to make sure you can see just a little bit of that as you push the ligature down. Once you have the ligature down, you can actually tighten the screws. And you don't want to tighten it too much. You don't want to really crank down the screws, just enough to hold the reed on there. Now once you have this all assembled, we're ready to make some of the first sounds. And we're actually just going to start with just the mouthpiece. So I want you to think about this as almost like an ice cream cone. Now the more that we have it up, we're actually going to protect the ice cream. If we tip it over like this, our ice cream is going to fall down on the floor, and it's not a good sight. We like to eat our ice cream. So keep this up just like this, so the reed is facing you. Now what we're going to do, we're actually going to cover our bottom teeth with our lip, just to provide a little bit of cushion. So just like this. It doesn't need to be so far over. It's just a little bit there, just to give you a little cushion on the bottom of your teeth. What you can do is stick that right there, and then you're going to actually bite down on the top of the mouthpiece. So your teeth are actually going to hit this black part. And once you're in this position, you're going to draw everything around that tight, like a drawstring. Okay? And then once you have that, just go ahead and try to blow some air and try to get it to go through the reed and the mouthpiece, in between those two sections. So go ahead and cover it over, bite down, draw it in tight, and then we're just going to blow some air. Now if you're getting that squeaky sound, that's exactly how it's supposed to sound. So don't be afraid or anything like that. You're getting the perfect sound. Now if you're having a little bit of trouble, there are some things that you can be doing wrong that would make it hard for you to get the sound. If you're biting down too hard on the reed, you're actually pinching off the reed so no air can go through. So it might sound like this, if you don't get any sound. So if you're having a problem with not getting any sound, try biting just a little bit less so you get that squeaky sound. Another problem you can possibly be having is if the tip of your tongue is covering the opening there. So again, no air is going through the instrument. So just make sure that you're biting down at the correct pressure. The opposite is true too. If you're not biting down hard enough on the reed, you're not going to get a sound either. So you want to make sure that you have the correct pressure on the reed. Now another thing that you can get is if you have too much of the reed in your mouth, you get a really high squeaky pitch. Okay? That is way too much reed in your mouth. So if that is the problem, go ahead. You only need about maybe a half an inch to an inch in your mouth. And you just want to make sure that you can sustain that pitch. Why don't you try challenging yourself and try to hold it out for about 10 seconds and see how far you can go. Alright, well now that we've got this together, we're ready to put it together with the rest of the clarinet. So let's go ahead and do that. So now we need to go ahead and put the mouthpiece and barrel on top of the rest of the clarinet. So just take your mouthpiece assembly and your barrel that you have, and then we just have one cork left, and that's exactly where the mouthpiece and barrel are going to go. So again, just be careful not to squeeze or damage any of the keys there. If you look at the back of the clarinet, you'll see your thumb rest, and then your register key here, this long part. Just make sure that your reed is lined up with that. Now your right hand is going to be holding the very bottom of the clarinet. So you can take your thumb and just stick just about a fingernail's worth underneath that. That's all you need. If you go too far over like this, when you go down to put keys, you're going to miss the keys completely. So just that much, and have a nice round hand. For right now, since we're not going to be putting any keys down, you can just take your top hand and you can just go ahead and grab the barrel just like this. What we're going to do is the same thing that we did with just the mouthpiece and the barrel. So you're going to go ahead and stick it right here. Make sure you have your good embouchure, so the bottom lip is going to be covering your bottom teeth just for padding. And then you're just going to make that squeaky sound that we had, but with the rest of the clarinet, it should sound much nicer. Okay, and when you don't have any fingers, that's called your G. So that's your first sound on clarinet. Congratulations! So now that we're finished practicing, it's time to take the clarinet apart. So the first thing that you need to do is just take off your reed. So go ahead and loosen up the ligature, and you can just pull your reed right out. Now it's still very important that the reed stays protected, so you should have a case just like this, and you can just take the thinner tip and you can go ahead and just slide it into that case. That's going to keep it from getting chipped or damaged when it's inside your case. So from there you can just go ahead and pull off the mouthpiece. You can stick your ligature back on, just like that, and then you can put the mouthpiece cap on, and that's going to lock everything in place so nothing is going to fall out. And you can just place that back in its slot for the case. Now the most important part of your daily maintenance on clarinet is going to be getting the moisture out of the instrument. So as we've been playing, moisture has gone in here, and it can damage the pads if it stays in there. So in your care kit, which if you don't have, you absolutely need to get one in order to protect the life of the clarinet. Okay, we're going to take out our yellow swab here. Now there's a weight on the end, and what we're going to do is turn the clarinet upside down so that the bell is facing up, and you're just going to drop that weight right in there, just like that. Now it'll come out the other side, and then all you need to do is just pull the cloth through. And you can just do this a couple times just to make sure that you get all the moisture out. Okay, so just drop it through, the weight will come out the other end, and then just pull it all the way through. Now from there we can just disassemble the clarinet in the opposite fashion that we put it together. So you can take your barrel off, slide that back into its case. You can take the bell off next, put that back into the case as well. And then just remember when you're disassembling these parts not to squeeze or pull anything here that is not necessary. Have gentle hands when you're holding the clarinet. And that will just disassemble like that. You can put these back into their respective places. Close the clarinet. And now something that's very important, make sure that you latch the cases before you pick it up and leave somewhere. I've seen a lot of cases just left open and they flop open and the parts fall out all over the place. So make sure that those cases are latched properly and then you're ready to go for the day. So we've covered the basics on how to put your instrument together, how to make your first sound, and how to care for the instrument in general. Please feel free to review these fundamental videos at any time, and you can also email me with questions or just to let me know how things are going at lessons@bertrandsmusic.com. Take care and keep playing.